Welcome back to another compelling chapter on our channel. In recent times, we've journeyed beneath the polished surfaces of musicians, digital creators, athletes, and public figures, uncovering the lesser-seen layers behind lives that often appear flawless. Today, we turn the lens toward a different world, the realm of actors and Hollywood icons, where image and reality don't always walk the same path.
Champagne nights, designer chains, smiles hiding storms and silent pain. Cameras flashed, the crowd believed every lie was well conceived. But behind the doors, behind the fame, the truth was waiting.
The figures we once admired and held in high regard often lived under a powerful spotlight. Yet beyond that glow lie stories that are unsettling and deeply thought-provoking. From moments that shook public trust to choices that led to irreversible consequences, today we examine individuals whose journeys dramatically reshaped the idea of a public fall from grace. Who among them left an enduring shadow on Hollywood's legacy? Let's uncover it together in this video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Shannon Richardson, while never reaching mainstream celebrity status, was briefly recognized for appearances in well-known television series such as The Walking Dead and The Vampire Diaries. Her public attention, however, did not stem from her work on screen. Instead, it arose from her involvement in deeply alarming actions that unsettled the nation. In 2013, Richardson became the focus of a major federal investigation after sending threatening correspondence involving a highly dangerous substance to several high-profile public figures, including a former U.S. president and the mayor of New York City, an act that abruptly shifted her story from minor visibility to national concern.
Above the Lord tonight.
Richardson's story illustrates how unchecked resentment and deception can spiral into actions with devastating outcomes. Her choices set off a chain reaction that caused widespread fear, deep harm, and lasting consequences for many people beyond herself. By allowing destructive emotions to take control, she closed off any remaining path toward repair or understanding. Ultimately, the case stands as a cautionary lesson about the dangers of letting anger and obsession guide behavior, and about how decisions driven by negativity can produce repercussions far greater than anyone initially imagined.
Escapes the final fight. Applause fades, excuses fall. Truth doesn't.
Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, widely known by the name War Machine, was an American mixed martial arts competitor once regarded as a rising presence in the sport. He drew attention for his physical power, speed, and aggressive fighting style, earning opportunities on prominent stages, including appearances connected to the UFC. For a time, his future appeared firmly tied to athletic success and recognition. That trajectory collapsed in 2014, when his personal life intersected with a deeply troubling incident. Following the end of a relationship with his partner, Christy Mack, he unexpectedly arrived at her residence in Las Vegas, setting the stage for events that would permanently redefine his career and public identity. Overcome by intense emotional collapse, War Machine carried out a series of actions that resulted in extreme harm and long-term trauma. The incident drew widespread public attention, and after a large-scale search, he was taken into custody. The legal proceedings that followed were extensive, with prosecutors bringing forward dozens of charges connected to unlawful restraint, serious bodily harm, and grave violations of personal autonomy. In 2017, the court reached its verdict, finding him guilty on the majority of counts. He was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole set far in the future, marking a definitive end to a career once built on discipline and physical control, and transforming his story into a stark warning about the devastating consequences of unchecked rage and loss of self-restraint. The sentence underscored the profound harm caused by his choices and the enduring effects left on those who suffered. His collapse reflects not only the end of a once promising athletic path, but also a sobering illustration of how destructive behavior within personal relationships can unravel an entire life. The case helped bring wider attention to the urgent need for awareness, early intervention, and meaningful support for individuals at risk, reinforcing the importance of addressing warning signs before damage becomes irreversible. Chris Wu, born Wu Yi-fan, emerged as a prominent figure in the global entertainment scene, holding Canadian citizenship and first rising to fame through his involvement in the K-pop industry as a member of EXO. After stepping away from the group, he shifted his focus toward acting and rapidly gained recognition on the big screen, appearing in several high-profile productions that expanded his international influence. For a time, his career reflected success, visibility, and cross-cultural appeal. Despite this upward trajectory, his public journey later became overshadowed by serious legal challenges that dramatically altered how his legacy is viewed. If you're familiar with the spy comedy world of Austin Powers, you'll likely recall Random Task, the towering, wordless enforcer known for his unconventional footwear, a playful nod to a classic cinematic archetype. The performer behind this unforgettable character was Jo Sun. Born in South Korea and later raised in California, Jo Sun first made his mark in the early days of mixed martial arts, stepping into the UFC before finding his way onto the big screen. His appearance as Random Task brought widespread attention and lasting recognition, securing his place as a distinctive and often remembered figure within the franchise's legacy. The laughter Jo Sun delivered on screen felt lighthearted, yet a far darker reality existed beyond the frame. In 2008, long after his rise to public recognition, he was taken into custody for an unrelated matter, triggering an unexpected and irreversible turn. At that point, newly collected genetic evidence was connected to an unresolved incident from 1,990 years before fame entered his life. As investigators revisited the case, the findings painted a deeply disturbing portrait, exposing actions that stood in stark contrast to his public image. And even then, this revelation marked only the final fight. Applause fades, excuses fall. Truth doesn't bow. In 2011, while already confined within the prison system, Jo Sun became linked to another grave incident involving a fellow inmate, Michael Thomas Graham, following a serious confrontation. The contrast was striking, a man once associated with humor and pop culture now fully exposed by the weight of his actions. The public image that once entertained audiences gave way to a reality shaped by irreversible choices and inner turmoil. His life ultimately unfolded entirely behind bars, ending in a sentence that reflected a long chain of consequences set in motion years earlier. Jo Sun's story stands as a sobering reminder that, in the early 2000s, Danny Masterson stood as a symbol of effortless cool through his portrayal of Stephen Hyde in that 70 Seconds show. With his signature curls, dark shades, and laid-back
Justice waits, it never dies. Every shadow, every scar.
Alongside his rise in acting, Masterson was also closely associated with the Church of Scientology, a highly debated organization often discussed for its strict internal structure and strong influence within the entertainment world. This affiliation later drew intense attention when serious allegations from the early 2000s began to emerge. Several women stepped forward with accounts that cast a long shadow over his public image. Yet what unsettled many observers even more than the accusations themselves was the prolonged quiet that surrounded them, allowing questions.
Every shadow, every scar shows us who we really are.
Those who spoke out later described an environment shaped by fear and pressure, where voices were discouraged from reaching official channels. For nearly 20 years, the reality remained concealed beneath layers of prestige, influence, and carefully maintained appearances, as powerful networks within entertainment circles helped preserve silence. It was only when a broader cultural awakening took hold that long-suppressed stories began to surface, The courtroom proceedings in 2023 unfolded as a moment of reckoning, where emotional testimonies gradually stripped away the polished image, revealing a far more complex and unsettling truth behind the former television icon.
No one's above the law tonight. No throne escapes the final fight. Applause fades, excuses fall.
The lengthy sentence handed down to Masterson marked the consequence of a series of actions that had long remained concealed, while also cracking a barrier of silence reinforced by influence and status. More than a legal outcome, the case became a symbolic turning point, prompting deeper reflection on how belief systems, authority, and fame can intertwine within the entertainment world. Above all, it underscored the importance of safeguarding those who speak up, reminding audiences that truth, though sometimes delayed, carries the power to surface and reshape even the most carefully protected narratives. Shelley Malil, an Indian-American actor, once sparked genuine laughter through his memorable appearance in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, portraying a co-worker whose humor and eccentric charm stood out. Beyond the screen, Malil was often seen as more than a comedic presence. He represented persistence in the face of limitation, continuously striving to move past cultural boundaries and claim his place in Hollywood. His journey resonated with many, reflecting the belief that resilience and determination could open doors, even within an industry known for its intense competition. However, on a fateful night in August 2008, that familiar smile vanished, overtaken by a storm of distorted emotions. Driven by obsessive thoughts and a fractured sense of reality, Malil went to the home of his former partner, Kendra Beebe. What followed unfolded with shocking intensity, echoing the chaos of a nightmare rather than real life. In a moment of complete loss of control, his actions crossed an irreversible line, marking not only a devastating incident, but also the collapse of everything he had spent years trying to build. Against all odds, Kendra survived the ordeal. She not only reclaimed her life from the edge of tragedy, but later stood in a courtroom, confronting a person who had once been part of her world, now revealed through his most destructive choices. The sentence handed down, severe and life-altering, effectively closed the door on Malil's time in Hollywood. More than a single case, this story stands as a sobering reflection on the dangers of unchecked emotions, the silent reality of harm within close relationships, and how, in rare but devastating moments, a public image built on humor can unravel under the weight of inner turmoil. Michael Jace, a gifted actor best remembered for his powerful performance in the crime drama The Shield, made a strong impact through his portrayal of Officer Julian Lowe, a principled figure navigating intense inner conflict while trying to hold on to his moral compass in a world clouded by corruption. The role showcased Jace's emotional depth and restraint, earning him recognition and elevating his status within the industry as an actor capable of bringing complexity and nuance to the screen. One individual stated that after speaking up, she was met with strong discouragement and cautioned that reaching out to authorities could lead to social isolation within the community. The organization firmly rejected these claims, maintaining that it had no rules or practices designed to block members from seeking legal help. Even so, its involvement has continued to spark intense debate, drawing attention to the intricate layers of influence, loyalty, and trust that can complicate situations where authority and personal boundaries intersect.
They were shining on the silver screen.
The second name on the list is Ryan Grantham, a former child actor remembered for portraying Rodney James in the 2010 film Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He also appeared in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus and later made a brief appearance in the television series Riverdale. With more than 30 screen credits to his name, his future in acting once appeared full of promise. That trajectory came to an abrupt and devastating halt at the age of 21, when a deeply tragic event involving his own family stunned the public and transformed his story from one of potential to one of irreversible loss.
Begins to fall when you think you've won it all.
From once embodying ideals of duty and integrity, Jace's life shifted into a reality defined by irreversible harm, leaving 2 children to grow up without a mother and a father facing decades behind bars. His story stands as a profound tragedy not only for a family torn apart, but also as a solemn reminder of what can happen when inner pressure, left unaddressed, overwhelms judgment and transforms personal struggle into lasting devastation. We begin with a name that may not belong to Hollywood's top tier, yet her story captured widespread attention: Shannon Richardson. Viewers of popular series like The Walking Dead or The Vampire Diaries may recognize her from brief but noticeable appearances, marking her as a rising presence searching for opportunity in the heart of the industry. But her aspirations extended far beyond the screen. Beneath a seemingly warm and approachable exterior, there existed a far more complex inner world, one shaped by intention, secrecy, and unsettling resolve.
Sing a different song, echoing where pride went wrong. From palace walls to concrete floors, no one's above the...
Horwitz carefully crafted the image of a well-connected Hollywood insider, repeatedly suggesting that his business maintained privileged relationships with leading streaming services. Over time, however, those who had placed their trust in him uncovered a very different reality, one built on illusion rather than legitimate success. The fraudulent operation had been running for years, supported by detailed reports that listed dozens of film projects allegedly lined up for international release. In truth, these productions never existed, and the promises behind them gradually collapsed, leaving investors to face substantial financial harm and a deep sense of betrayal.
Saves you from the light, fame won't shield, money won't lie, when the truth comes.
Investigators allege that a large portion of the funds was redirected toward personal use, while hundreds of investors were misled over several years through his company, from the mid-2010 seconds until his arrest. Zach Avery's case stands as a cautionary example of how financial deception can hide behind polished appearances and convincing narratives. It reveals how unchecked ambition and ethical failure can dismantle a public image, erase a career, and leave lasting damage on the lives and livelihoods of countless people who place their trust in the wrong hands.
Sing a different song, echoing.
The 19th name on the list is Joe Exotic, born Joseph Allen Maldonado, a former zoo operator whose notoriety eventually eclipsed his public persona. He rose to national attention through his ownership and management of the Wynwood Exotic Animal Park in Oklahoma, a sprawling facility that placed him at the center of intense debate. His practices involving big cats and his visibility within the controversial world of exotic animal entertainment made him a polarizing figure long before legal consequences reshaped how the public would ultimately remember him.
From palace walls to concrete floors.
In March 2020, Ryan Grantham crossed a point of no return through an act that defied comprehension, taking the life of his own mother, Barbara Waite, within the quiet familiarity of their home. The event sent waves of disbelief through those who knew him and through the wider community. Yet what deepened the sense of alarm was not only what had already occurred, but the disturbing intentions that surfaced about what he had envisioned next, revealing a mindset that had drifted far beyond the reach of reason. When authorities intervened, the situation revealed an even more alarming dimension. Investigators uncovered signs of a carefully imagined plan aimed far beyond his immediate surroundings, involving preparations and intentions that pointed toward a high-profile public figure at the national level. The scope of what had been contemplated sent shockwaves through the country. Yet, before that scenario could unfold, something within him shifted, whether hesitation, conscience, or fear, leading him to abandon the plan and surrender himself to law enforcement, bringing the unfolding threat to an end before further harm could occur.
Still birds sing a different song, echoing where pride went wrong, from palace walls to concrete floors.
Ryan Grantham's story stands as a deeply tragic reflection on what can happen when inner struggles go unseen and unsupported. It highlights the fragile balance between potential, identity, and emotional stability, showing how quickly that balance can collapse without timely care. The narrative underscores a sobering truth when mental distress is left unaddressed. The distance between promise and irreversible harm can narrow in ways that are both unsettling and devastating, reminding us of the urgent need for awareness, compassion, and early intervention. What are your thoughts on this viewpoint? If it resonates with you, leave a 1. If not, drop a 0 below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Stay with us as we continue uncovering more compelling stories, and feel free to join the discussion. Your perspective helps shape deeper, more meaningful conversations.
No halo saves you from the light. Fame won't shield, money won't lie. When the truth comes marching by, still birds sing a different song, echoing where pride went wrong, from palace walls to concrete floors.
Jen Shah, a reality television personality who gained attention through Bravo's The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, quickly became known for her commanding presence and unmistakable style. For a time, she embodied confidence and visibility in the public eye. That narrative shifted sharply in March 2021, when authorities brought charges alleging involvement in a large-scale financial scheme. According to prosecutors, Shah and a close associate were accused of orchestrating deceptive telemarketing operations, with vulnerable older individuals identified as the primary targets, marking a dramatic and consequential turn in her public and professional life.
No halo saves you from the light.
As his brief time in front of the camera slipped quietly into obscurity, Delian found himself drifting away from any meaningful artistic pursuit. Instead of accepting a modest reality or rebuilding from the ground up, his sense of disappointment hardened into something more corrosive. Financial strain and broken illusions gradually reshaped his thinking, narrowing his choices and distorting his judgment. Rather than turning toward an ordinary, honest path, he gravitated toward decisions driven by desperation and ego, embracing a direction defined not by creativity or effort, but by reckless intent and a willingness to cross boundaries in pursuit of hollow goals.
Sing a different song, echoing where pride went wrong, from palace walls to concrete floors.
Skylar Delian's life ultimately became a stark illustration of how ambition, when stripped of empathy and restraint, can descend into something profoundly destructive. His actions sent shockwaves far beyond his own world, leaving behind a sobering lesson about the price of unchecked desire and inflated self-perception. What began as misplaced dreams gradually eroded his sense of humanity, guiding him away from conscience and toward a void shaped by choices that could not be undone.
Concrete floors, no one's above the law. No halo saves you from the light. Fame won't shield, money won't lie. When the truth comes.
Few revelations in modern culture carried the same weight as the moment Bill Cosby's carefully crafted image began to unravel. For nearly 50 years, he was far more than a comedian. He was widely embraced as America's dad. Through his portrayal of Dr. Few revelations in modern culture carried the same weight as the moment Bill Cosby's carefully crafted image began to unravel. For nearly 50 years, he was far more than a comedian. He was widely embraced as America's dad. Through his portrayal of Dr. Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show, he embodied an ideal, intelligent, warm, humorous, and deeply devoted to family. Beyond television, Cosby positioned himself as a moral voice of his era, authoring books on character, delivering lectures on personal responsibility, and receiving numerous honorary degrees from respected institutions. His influence within Hollywood felt untouchable, reinforced by decades of admiration and authority. Yet beneath the familiar image of warmth and wisdom existed a far more troubling reality. That carefully maintained facade began to fracture in 2014, when a casual but courageous remark by comedian Hannibal Buress on a comedy stage publicly challenged Following a trial that spanned nearly 3 weeks, the court delivered firm judgments that brought their public story to a decisive close. Todd Crisley received a 12-year prison sentence, while Julie was sentenced to 7 years. He is now serving his term at a federal correctional facility in Pensacola, Florida, and she is incarcerated at a separate federal institution in Mariana. Their outcome drew attention to the sharp divide between the polished lifestyle presented on television and the concealed realities behind it, offering a sobering reminder that carefully crafted appearances can unravel when accountability takes center stage. No one's above the law tonight. No throne escape. In truth, what had been presented as harmless substances were later understood to have incapacitating effects. When awareness faded, the trusted public persona collapsed, revealing conduct that stood in stark opposition to everything he represented on screen. The legal proceedings that followed reached far beyond a single individual, becoming a defining moment tied to the broader Me Too awakening. In 2018, the image of a once revered cultural figure escorted away by authorities symbolized the close of a long-standing illusion. And while a procedural ruling led to his release in 2021, in the court of public memory, the beloved character Cliff Huxtable quietly vanished. Institutions moved swiftly to distance themselves. Honors were withdrawn, monuments removed, and a once celebrated show faded from rotation. What remains is no longer associated with humor or nostalgia, but with reflection and accountability. The story leaves behind a difficult lesson that public images can be carefully crafted, and admiration should never replace critical awareness, especially when the truth demands empathy for those whose voices were ignored for far too long.
Every seed is finally sown. No one's above the law.
If Bill Cosby's collapse felt like a sudden detonation, Stephen Collins's story unfolded more like a quiet blade, slowly cutting through the trust of an entire generation. To audiences in the 1,990 seconds, Collins was the very heart of Seventh Heaven, one of the longest-running family dramas in American television history. Through his role as Pastor Eric Camden, he represented warmth, moral guidance, and spiritual calm. He was portrayed as the ideal father,